welcome to part 2 of GNR Reviews. So you had the lightning round where we gave you a quick synopsis just on the categories, ranking the categories. Now here comes the thunder. This is where we actually break it down as to why we feel the way we feel about our rankings. So this movie came out to be a C average movie, like we said. We had a high score, we had a middle score, we had a low score. So we're going to just break it down in that order. I had the high score. There's a couple of reasons why I gave it the high marks I gave it. I like the setting. You know, there really wasn't a lot of scene changes. The docks was a big primary scene, and docks are always a great place to have fights, explosions, escape. It's a dock. It's got all kind of boxes and moving parts and water and gas here, and water and gas don't mix, so there's always going to be an explosion. Then when they got to the ninja compound, it was a quasi-traditional ninja compound in the hills, but the city was right there. They weren't like, out the way. You could ride a motorcycle to it, and then the compound itself, think about it. Ninjas aren't poor. They adapt very well. They stay around for centuries doing assassins for different governments and so forth and so on. So they have to learn how to adapt. They have to learn how to use technology. So that compound itself, even though it had a traditional pit for third trials, because you always got to have a pit for third trials, it also had modern aspects such as the indoor plumbing, security system, the auto garage with the high-tech motorcycles. So, I like the settings. I thought it gave a nice ninja feel, I also like the costumes. Snake has some tough leather jackets. I mean, every time he had a jacket on, it was sweet, even without the uniform. Storm Shadow, clean. White leather outfit, clean. Cutting people with swords. Ancient swords with names to them. High-tech guns, private planes. The costumes were just good in the whole sense of creating the whole fantasy of how these high-tech, sophisticated, like I said, richer than you and I, ancient ninjas operate that we don't even know about. And then the last thing I liked was the cast. I like Henry Golding as Snake Eyes. I like the fact that if there has to be a warrior that comes to save the ninjas, it's a Asian descendant warrior. Ninjas are Asian warriors. You don't need like other movies you've seen where the Great White Hope comes in and saves the samurais, or something of that nature comes into the Mayan village and helps the Mayans or whatever. No, this was a man of Asian descent that returned to his history and somehow in 3 weeks became a ninja, but that's a whole other issue. So I like the casting, I like the costumes, I like the setting, and it just kept me going for the movie. Russ, you had the middle opinion. What do you think?
Well, one thing you had touched on is, like you said, that third challenge. And as far as I was concerned, when it came down to it, and he's trying to put, Kenta down there, when those anacondas come out, they only come out after you hit the notch that's at the ground. And I couldn't understand for the life of me. You could fall in the pit, but the anacondas can't get out. They're anacondas. They're huge. So for that, as far as like storyline, really, the first challenge, it was just about his arrogance, so to speak. Now, what I did like in particular, which I rated high, was the cinematography. Today with action, and it really comes from, I don't know if it's people being drawn in, looking at your phone or playing games. Cinematography, when you are already trying to choreograph a fight or any kind of, battle for that nature, especially with swordplay and, with the acrobats of being a ninja or a samurai warrior, you really, if you have a still shot, it's cool, it's not bad, but that action around, you just want to feel like you kind of are in the middle of it. Again, with the costumes, I enjoyed, when they did give Snake Eyes that costume, and then like you said with Storm Shadow, and with Storm Shadow, like you said, clean, all white. It's something that you would expect because you can separate now the entities. One is supposed to, is because he's wearing a black costume doesn't necessarily mean he's the bad guy. Learn that Storm Shadow dressed in all white, he's not a good guy. you're learning why, and he wants to claim his name as that. Another thing, as far as the setting, it for me, I ranked it a 5 because when you see, you know, you think of warriors or just being in Tokyo, you know, of the samurai warriors, and they're men who are honorable. You would have to be if your weapon is a sword. You know, I mean, they're, you know, now don't get me wrong, because, you know, they are in the 21st century and they're, you know, even Storm Shadow was saying, like, you know, he's thinking about the future. But still, it's something about a blade. It's more personal. Anybody can pick up a gun and just aim and shoot at somebody. And unfortunately, some innocence gets lost. But when you are fighting with a weapon like that up close, you know what I mean? It is more personal. You know what I mean? It's necessary because that's what they have to defend themselves. So, you know, with that as a backdrop, I really thought that, you know, that brought a little bit of authenticity to the film. Nabor, what did you feel, or what were your strongest or weakest?
So, well, I won't get down to why I didn't like the movie. So I generally agree with the rest of my fellow members here and panelists about the costume being good and the setting being great, and those things, right? I think were okay, but I think the most important thing with movies is storyline. I won't focus on 3-point storyline that I thought really made this movie a bad movie, in my opinion. That it really something that had potential was destroyed because of lazy writing. So the first thing I want to talk about is originality. The fact that Snake Eye's father was murdered based on fate, a roll of loaded dice, remind me of Two-Face from Batman. I thought that was an original by the writers here. Second thing I want to talk about storyline is that we see Snake Eyes as a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy. 20 years has passed, so he's about 30 in a steel cage match, mixed martial arts underground. What was he doing the 20 years? We know he lived in the state of Washington, in the state of California. So what did he do in those 20 years? How did he survive? How did he polish those martial arts training his father gave him? You know, how was he going about? Yeah, how was he going about investigating his father's death? Like, what was he doing? Did he join a gang? How did he support himself? One of the things, you know, and I'll think about this a little bit longer actually. In the Man of Steel, Henry Cavill's Superman, Zack Snyder's Superman, we saw the progression of Superman as a boy to teenager to man.
Right.
This is being an origin movie by Snake Eye, excuse me. We should have seen a progression from a 10-year-old boy, teenager, into an adult man. That's the origin story. We didn't see. Right. So it was a big mystery what he was doing for the past 20 years, especially when they come back and tell you through Storm Shadow's security advisor saying, listen, this guy's a ghost. You know, we have nothing on him for the last 20 years. I find it hard to believe that a guy who's been trying to find his father's murderer for the last 20 years been under the radar for that long. You know, no thumbprint whatsoever, no toxic, no carbon footprint. There has to be something, you know, there. So that was, you know, I didn't understand that part of the movie. The third thing is that I think the movie failed on is the training. So being a ninja requires certain skill sets. So when he went to the 3 trials, I was expecting to see him being trained in stealth, espionage, okay, hand-to-hand combat, and sword fighting. We didn't see none of that. It was weird. Like you saw him being stealth in terms of scaling the walls, destroying security cameras, stealing the artifact. But through the movie, we didn't see this training. We saw a trial period, 3 trials, which was basically character and fitness. Right. That's what it was. It was basic character and fitness, and that was quite disappointing to me. So those are 3 things that I thought this movie failed on. There's a 4th thing too, but as we discussed, I'll get into that. But let's have our full.
But you know, I mean, I do have to agree to you. The storyline was the weakest thing I scored on there because, like I said, how did he become a ninja in 3 weeks? I mean, just hanging with these other ninjas with these trials that didn't equate to anything. How did he become a commando in the military? I mean, he had never had any military training. You know, I didn't like the way they just kind of forced that together. You know, just didn't make sense to me. And then, you know, I guess he was a cage fighter. He kind of relied on people to get confident, you know, by letting them beat him up, and then he would all of a sudden turn around and Snake Eyes, they out of there, you know. But come on now, you get slammed around, kick, punch. You lucky that you stayed conscious.
Yes.
You have some kind of broken bones or something, you know. He didn't have a broken finger. I mean, you know what I'm saying? So it's like that story was just like they could have did so much more than that. In my opinion,
it had a lot of potential, man, and it just missed on it. You know, even with the character development, you know, there's a part at the end of the movie when Storm Shadow is reprimanded for using an artifact to hit Kenta, and he was his grandmother, who was leader of the clan. She told him he couldn't be the leader of the clan because he showed lack of discipline in that moment. And I thought that was a miss right there, because I wouldn't say, listen, reprimand for that action. I think you reprimand Storm Shadow for being naive, impulsive, bad judge of character, and not taking the advice of his advisors, being stubborn. You know, one of the first scenes, I think, but one of the scenes that's etched into my memory is when he introduced Snake Eyes to Akiko, the head of security, and he told Snake Eyes right then and there, she's our we take her recommendation on advice, but we don't always follow it. Right then and there, he insulted someone who has his security team. And even when she was pressing Storm Shadow about, listen, I don't trust this guy, Storm Shadow said, nope, I like him, you know, and you know, forget what you gotta say. And
Mel Bravado.
Yeah, giving him a blade out of brotherhood. I mean, it just shows the level of being naive. So as a leader, you can't disregard advice from people who are part of your inner circle, part of security especially. And that to me should have been a reason why I reprimanded him, not because he showed emotion that Snake Eye stole an artifact and killed half of the people in the clan, and he was upset at his cousin Kenta and wanted to strike at him. No, you're not going to be the leader of this clan because you show you're impulsive, you show that you're a bad decision maker, you're not good as a character, you're stubborn. These are flaws that we are blatant throughout the movie that we cannot. The reason why we cannot have you as a leader for the clan for the next 100 years. Right.
Yeah, he's blinded, like you said, blinded by his own judgment. You know, he's thinking about the future, but whose? Is it the clan or is it for his own selfish endeavors? I mean, you know, obviously he wants to sit there and just know because of the bloodline, but if you do something like that, the warriors who came before you, they haven't used the stone to do that. You know, I mean, they've had to show some sort of discipline. And it's under that kind of high-tech security, I'm sure they weren't around. The ones who, you know, preceded them weren't around. You know what I'm saying? At that point, I'm sure he's never heard a story where, hey, we take the stone out, you know, to defend ourselves out of just our own selfishness. So, no, I agree with you on that, especially, it's just a lack of judgment, and it left a lot of holes.
Yeah. But overall, like we said, this movie was a C movie. You know, it is a fast, action-paced, you know, action-packed movie. Good summertime movie. Take the kids to, drive in, you know, something like that. But not gonna win any Grand Academy Awards, you know, Oscars for this one here. But except for them tough leather jackets, they might win some costume awards. I don't know.
Yeah, it's possible.
But anyway, we thank you for joining in here. And of course, if you like this, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and we can let you know when you have more content out. This is Glenn.
Be bored.
Man runs. Peace, world. Don't forget.
All right, now. Thank you.